The moment Claire walked into the gala, heads turned. Not just because she looked stunning, which she did, but because she wanted them to turn. The slit in her deep green dress ran higher than I'd ever seen her wear before, and her laugh echoed across the ballroom like she was auditioning for attention. I'd seen that version of her before, just never quite this bold. Not in public. Not like this. My name's Michael, I'm 38, and I teach history at the high school in our town just outside Charleston, South Carolina. It's not a flashy job, but I love it. I'd rather talk about the Treaty of Versailles than school board politics, which is exactly why I dreaded this gala. But Claire? Claire thrives at events like these. She's a middle school counselor, beautiful, sharp, and charming in a way that makes people open up to her instantly. At the Foundation's annual gala, she was in her element. Me? I spent the first 20 minutes making awkward conversation with other teachers while clutching a warm glass of white wine. Then Victor Lang showed up. Lang's a school board member with political ambitions so big you can smell them on him. He has that greasy sort of charm, the kind that plays well in rooms full of donors. Claire and I had met him a couple of times, but tonight she walked right up to him like they were old friends. Maybe they were. I watched as Claire tossed her hair back and laughed at something Lang whispered in her ear. Too close. Too familiar. His hand lingered on her arm. She leaned in, and I stood there across the room, tightening my grip on the wine glass. After 5 more minutes of trying to ignore it, I finally made my way over. Hey, I said, touching Claire's back. Mind if I steal my wife for a second? She barely glanced at me. Michael, this is Victor Lang, she said like I didn't know. We're talking about the new school wellness program. Lang extended his hand with a smirk. Michael, of course. Pleasure, I said flatly. Then turned to Claire. Can I talk to you for a second? Seriously. She gave me a tight smile. We're literally in the middle of something. Don't be rude. I stepped back like I'd been slapped. I'm not trying to start anything, I just... Michael, please, she said. Don't make a scene. Not tonight. That was it. No more room for me at the conversation. Lang looked smug. Claire looked embarrassed, not for herself, but for me. The ride home was dead silent. Once the kids were asleep and we were alone in the kitchen, I finally spoke. What was that? You acted like I was some jealous ex barging in. She crossed her arms. Because you were. That was a professional conversation, and you made it weird. He had his hand on you. She rolled her eyes. God, you're so insecure sometimes. Not everything is a threat, Michael. Victor is a VIP, and I'm not going to apologize for being friendly. Friendly? I said. You laughed at everything he said like he was the damn Pope. Claire's eyes hardened. You embarrassed me. You're paranoid. And honestly, it's exhausting. I didn't say anything else. I just stood there, watching the woman I thought I knew turn into someone I barely recognized. And deep down, I knew this night wasn't the beginning. It was just the part where I finally stopped pretending. 3 days later, Claire dropped the bomb while we were folding laundry. She didn't look up from the stack of Ava's soccer jerseys when she said it, like it was nothing. Victor invited me to the education banquet Friday night. I'm going. I blinked. Wait, with him? As in, with him. She shrugged. He asked me to be his +1. There's not a rule against it. You're married, I said flatly, straightening a bath towel that didn't need fixing. There kind of is. Claire tossed a shirt in the basket. It's not a date, Michael. It's a networking event. I go as his guest. I mingle with board members. I advocate for mental health funding. That's the job. No, I said. That's not your job. Being a middle school counselor is your job. Going out dressed up with Victor Lang isn't. She looked at me, her jaw set. You know what your problem is? You can't handle me getting attention. You see it as some personal threat. I scoffed. No, I see it as emotional cheating. You're dressing up for another man who just happens to have political clout and a wandering hand. You think that looks normal? She rolled her eyes. God, not this again. Would it be okay if I went out to dinner with a female colleague? I asked. One-on-one. Dressed to impress. Just the two of us. That's not the same. Why not? Claire grabbed a pair of Ava's leggings and folded them aggressively. Because women don't throw themselves at married men at board dinners. And I don't get accused of cheating just because I know how to talk to people. Talk? I said. You called it, being his +1. That's not networking, that's a date with plausible deniability. She glared at me. I'm going. I don't need your permission. Just then, Ava padded into the room, holding her stuffed dog by one floppy ear. Mommy, who are you going on a date with? Claire froze. I turned toward her slowly. Yeah, Claire. Who are you going on a date with? It's not a date, sweetie, she said quickly, kneeling down. It's just a fancy work party. Ava looked confused. But Daddy's not going? Nope, I said. Not invited. Claire stood back up, face tight. Can we not do this in front of the kids? I nodded toward the hallway. Too late. That Friday night, Claire came down the stairs like she was walking a red carpet. Tight black dress. Red lipstick. Hair curled just enough to look effortless. She looked amazing, and she knew it. Ava stood at the bottom step, holding Logan's hand. You look like a movie star, she whispered. Claire smiled. Thanks, baby. The doorbell rang. A sleek black town car waited in the driveway. I watched through the living room window as Claire walked out, her heels clicking on the brick path. The driver opened the back door. She slid in without looking back. Ava turned to me. Daddy, why didn't you go? I swallowed the answer I wanted to give and said, sometimes grown-ups don't get invited. We watched the car pull away, and then Ava turned back to her brother. Come on, she said softly. Let's go read. I stood in the hallway, holding Claire's folded sweater in my hands, and suddenly realized she hadn't asked me how she looked. Not even once. The next morning, Claire still wasn't home. She hadn't texted, hadn't called. Nothing. I made breakfast for the kids, frozen waffles, scrambled eggs, a few orange slices. Ava kept glancing toward the hallway. Logan was quiet, poking holes in his eggs with a fork. Mommy sleep over at her party? Ava asked finally. She stayed out late, I said. I'm sure she'll be back soon. I didn't believe that. Not really. After breakfast, I FaceTimed my parents and then Claire's. I told both sets the truth, sort of. I said Claire had gone to a school event with a school board member and that I was concerned. I needed help keeping the kids distracted. My mom was direct. Michael, you need to talk to a lawyer. Quietly. Claire's parents looked shocked. Her dad sat stiffly with his arms crossed. Her mom said gently, I can't believe she'd go out all night. That's not like her. I didn't correct her. Because maybe this was like Claire now. That afternoon, I took the kids to the park. Pushed Logan on the swings while Ava built a lopsided sandcastle. It was warm out, but I felt cold under the skin, like something inside me had gone numb. Claire didn't come home until after 11 the next morning. I heard the door click. I stayed in the kitchen, making sandwiches for lunch. She walked in wearing the same dress she left in. Makeup smudged. Hair flat in the back. No overnight bag. No explanation. She grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge like it was a normal Sunday. I didn't say anything. Just stood there with the knife in my hand, paused halfway through a peanut butter spread. Can we not do this right now? She said without looking up. I swallowed. Do what? She looked annoyed. Make this into a thing. It is a thing, Claire. You stayed out all night. Didn't answer your phone. Came back in the same dress. What am I supposed to think? She leaned against the counter and took a long sip from the bottle. Then I went to a party, stayed too late, crashed at a friend's. Which friend? She rolled her eyes. God, Michael, why does it even matter? Because you're married. Because we have 2 kids sleeping down the hall. Because this isn't just about you anymore. Her face twisted. You're acting like I slept with him. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She stared at me. You really think I do that? I think you're doing things you never used to do, I said quietly. I think you're shutting me out and chasing something that looks a lot like attention. Her jaw clenched. So this is my fault. I'm the villain now. I shook my head. No, you're just not the person I thought I married. That hit something. Her shoulders dropped slightly. But the apology never came. Instead, she muttered, you're blowing this way out of proportion. No, I said. I'm just done pretending everything's fine. We stood there, 10 feet apart, in the same kitchen we used to laugh in. She took another sip of water, then turned and walked down the hall toward the bedroom. I didn't follow. I just finished making Logan's sandwich and packed it into a plastic bag like it was any other day, because the kids still needed lunch, even if the rest of our world was cracking in half. 2 weeks passed. Cold silence, no apologies, no explanations, just quiet tension that filled the house like a gas leak. I moved into the guest room the night after our last argument. I told Ava I wasn't feeling well, just needed space to rest. She didn't ask questions, just nodded and handed me her stuffed giraffe in case I got lonely. Logan followed her in and placed his Paw Patrol blanket over my legs. Claire didn't object. She just shut the bedroom door. That became the routine. We coexisted. She got the kids ready in the morning. I packed lunches. We'd exchange the occasional logistics update in passing. Logan has swim today. Ava's field trip forms due. But that was it. Emotionally, We were done. At least I was. One night, I came home from a PDA meeting and found Claire in the kitchen, sipping wine in one of my old t-shirts. Her eyes looked tired, but there was something else there too, a glimmer of something she hadn't shown me in weeks. Regret? Guilt? Hey, she said, soft. I didn't respond. She stepped forward. I've been thinking, maybe we could talk. Really talk. I nodded, slowly. Okay. Go ahead. But she didn't talk. She stepped closer and touched my arm. Her fingers brushed mine. You don't have to sleep in the guest room, she said quietly. Not tonight. I held her gaze for a beat. Then another. If you want me back in that bed, I said carefully, I need to know you've been tested. She froze. What? I need proof, I said. If you want to touch me, sleep next to me, anything, I need to know. I need to see it. Her eyes welled instantly, like I'd just called her something unspeakable. Michael, I didn't. You disappeared all night, Claire. You came home in the same dress. You lied to me. If nothing happened, then prove it. She turned away, wiping her face hard with the back of her hand. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you gave me a reason to. That night, she slept in our bed. I stayed in the guest room. 2 days later, she handed me a folded sheet of paper. Clean bill of health. Signed, dated. No infections. No concerns. She dropped it on the counter like it burned her fingers. There. Happy. No, I said. But I'm not surprised. She stared at me. So what now? We play house like nothing happened. I shook my head. No. I parent. I teach. I take care of my kids. But I'm not playing anything anymore. Claire stood there like she wanted to yell, cry, something. But in the end, she just walked away. And I knew right then, the marriage wasn't over on paper, but it was over in spirit. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was just preparing for the long haul, birthdays and recitals and shared drop-offs, all the while knowing I was raising children with a woman I no longer trusted and maybe never really knew. It happened at the McAllister's potluck. They lived 2 blocks over, one of those houses with a perfectly trimmed lawn and string lights hung year-round. Claire loved those kinds of events. Casual but curated. She'd bake something with rosemary or drizzle and show up like the picture of grace. I wasn't planning to go, but Ava begged me. Mom already said we'd be there, she said, holding Logan's hand like a lawyer presenting her case. So I went. Not because I wanted to, but because it was easier than explaining why I didn't. The backyard was packed. Kids played tag around the picnic tables. Someone grilled hot dogs. A Bluetooth speaker played acoustic covers of 90s songs. I stood off to the side near the cooler, sipping a Sprite, when I heard Claire's voice. She was across the yard, under the pergola, wine in hand, talking with 3 other women. Their faces familiar, moms from the school, neighborhood walkers, PDA volunteers. And they were laughing. Not giggling. Not chuckling. Laughing loud enough to carry. I'm telling you, Claire said, her voice rising, playful but sharp, that night was unforgettable. One of the women gasped. No. With Lang. Claire sipped her wine. Let's just say I didn't get much sleep, and it wasn't from the wine. The women howled. Someone said, God, you're bad. Claire grinned, like she was proud of it. Well, what he doesn't know won't hurt him. I didn't realize I was gripping my cup so tight until I felt it collapse in my hand. Soda leaked down my sleeve. They didn't see me. I turned and walked toward the side gate, barely saying goodbye. I didn't even check if Ava or Logan noticed. By the time we got home, I was sick to my stomach. Literally. I threw up in the downstairs bathroom. Claire got home an hour later. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a blank stare and a glass of water. She walked in humming. How many people know? I asked, voice low. She turned, startled. What? How many people? I repeated. Know what happened between you and Lang? She didn't answer. Was it just the board? Your friends? Neighbors? Parents at school drop-off? Claire exhaled. Michael, don't do this. You joked about it like it was nothing, I said. You made me into a punchline. Some clueless husband. Some fool. Her face twisted. It wasn't like that. I stood. It was. I heard you. You laughed. You bragged. She crossed her arms. So what? I made a mistake. One mistake. I stared at her. That's what you're calling it? She stepped forward. You're blowing this out of proportion. No, I said. You lit our marriage on fire, and now you're mad I won't pretend it's warm and cozy. Her voice dropped, sharper now. You need to get over it. That hit me harder than I expected. She wasn't sorry. Not really. She didn't regret what she did. She just regretted that I heard about it. I walked past her, up the stairs to check on the kids, and as I tucked Logan in, I realized something. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. Private pain is one thing, but Claire had turned our life into a neighborhood anecdote, and I didn't know if I'd ever get that dignity back. We sat through 3 therapy sessions. I went because I wanted to say I tried. For the kids. For the history we shared. For the part of me that still remembered Claire before the smirks, before the secrets. Each session was worse than the last. She cried once, not because she was sorry, but because she was tired of being punished. She said I was holding one bad decision over her head like a sword, that I was clinging to it instead of healing. At the 3rd session, she said it again. It was just one night, and I finally realized what that meant. It wasn't just a one-night stand. It was a one-night erasure of vows, of trust, of a whole decade of partnership. A single evening where she decided I didn't matter. That night, I stayed up after she went to bed. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, my coffee cold, and pulled up the folder I'd been building quietly for weeks. Receipts. Phone logs. A copy of the health report she gave me. Screenshots of texts I'd found on our shared iPad. A few from Lang, short but suggestive, enough to prove the emotional affair had started long before the gala. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted proof. The next morning, I left for school early and drove to the courthouse before the bell. I filed for divorce. Quietly. Legally. Clean. The paperwork was processed faster than I expected. A friend of my mother's, a paralegal, handled it discreetly. I listed infidelity and emotional cruelty. I attached the folder. It wasn't vindictive, it was methodical. Claire was served 2 days later. At her school. During 4th period. The fallout hit hard and fast. I hadn't meant to cause a scene, but I didn't cry about it either. A staff member told another. A parent overheard. And by the time the final bell rang, the whispers had gone district-wide. That night, Claire came home shaking. "You did this on purpose," she said, slamming the door behind her. "You wanted to humiliate me." I looked up from the couch. "No, I just wanted it done." She paced the living room like a trapped animal. "You filed at work. You blindsided me." I stood. "You didn't see it coming? You sent divorce papers to my job. You sent yourself to Lang's hotel room," I said. That was the real delivery. She blinked hard. "You're such an ass." "No," I said. "I'm a father. A teacher. A husband who spent the last 2 months being lied to. Now I'm done." Claire's mouth opened, then closed. No comeback. No fake tears. She went upstairs without another word. And I sat back down and finally exhaled. There was no rage. No drama. Just silence and the slow, steady relief of knowing I didn't have to carry it anymore. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a conclusion. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I'd made the right choice. Even if it left a crater where our marriage used to be. Months before I filed, back when things were unraveling but still technically intact, I made a quiet move. One night after the kids had gone to bed, I took the dress Claire wore to the gala, the one she came home in, wrinkled and reeking of wine and hotel soap, and sealed it in a plastic dry cleaner bag. I found a single short blonde hair on the strap. Claire's is dark brown. I tucked the bag in a manila envelope and dropped it at a friend's office, a former college roommate who now worked in legal affairs for a state ethics board. I didn't say much, just that it might be relevant soon. He raised an eyebrow, nodded, and said, "I'll hold on to it." I also included a typed note, anonymous, detailing Victor Lang's behavior with a subordinate, without mentioning Claire's name directly. I didn't expect much. But when Lang's name surfaced in a misconduct report 6 weeks after I filed, I knew exactly what was coming. It started as a quiet leak, whispers in the district about inappropriate use of influence, vague HR memos, and board members meeting in closed sessions. Then came the press. A local news blog published the first hit, Lang accused of using position for personal invitations. The article didn't mention names, but anyone in the district could connect the dots. Lang had attended multiple public events with Claire, is +1, despite her having no formal connection to the board. Photos surfaced. Her name got linked. I stayed out of it. Said nothing. Did nothing. I just kept teaching. Kept packing Ava's lunch and showing up to Logan's swim meets. Claire, on the other hand, got swallowed by it. First came the leave of absence, mutual and temporary, according to the school newsletter. Then the board issued a quiet internal memo. Staff members associated with ongoing investigations are discouraged from appearing at public events. Translation? Don't be seen. And then the call stopped. Her PDA friends. the book club ladies. Even her Instagram went suspiciously quiet. One morning, I heard her crying in the bedroom after dropping the kids off. I didn't go in. Another week passed before the district formally cut ties with Lang. He resigned to focus on family, the article said. Claire wasn't mentioned in the press release, but she was mentioned plenty at the grocery store, at school pickup, in group chats between teachers and parents. She became the cautionary tale, not because she cheated, but because she chose a man who couldn't protect her when things went south. The job offers dried up. Her reputation shriveled. And I never said a word. Not to her. Not to the kids. Not even to the friend who helped me send the first envelope. I just stayed quiet because that was enough. I focused on Ava's science fair project and Logan's obsession with dinosaurs. I read at night. I slept better. Eventually, I started seeing someone. Nina, the children's librarian from school. Sweet, grounded, the kind of woman who didn't need to be the center of the room to feel important. She came over for dinner a few times. The kids liked her instantly. Ava asked if Nina could come to her birthday party. Logan asked if she knew how to play Uno. One night, Ava looked up from the kitchen table and said, "You should marry her." I smiled, but I didn't say anything. Claire still had every other weekend. She showed up on time, quiet and cordial. She never asked about Nina. I never volunteered anything. But I saw the look in her eyes the first time she dropped the kids off and Nina was on the porch, laughing with Logan, helping Ava untangle her backpack strap. It was the look of someone who realized she'd lost everything, not in one night, but in a slow, silent sequence of her own choices. And now she had to live with it. I didn't ruin her. She did that herself. I just made sure the right people were watching. It started small with Nina. A coffee at the school book fair, a conversation about Ava's favorite graphic novels. Then a museum outing, just me and the kids, until Nina showed up unexpectedly with a free guest pass and 2 extra sandwiches. Claire was late to pick the kids up that day. Nina stayed with us while we waited. She taught Logan how to fold a paper frog from a brochure. Ava sat next to her on the bench, reading a book about women in science while Nina listened and nodded like every word mattered. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't forced. It was peaceful. And for the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel like I was walking through emotional landmines. Nina never asked about Claire. She never judged. She just showed up, present, consistent, kind. The kids started calling her Miss Nina. Then just Nina. By the time spring rolled around, she was coming over twice a week. Reading nights turned into Sunday pancakes. Museum trips turned into weekend mini-golf. Logan started asking if she could come to his swim meets. Ava wanted her help decorating her science fair board. One Sunday, we had a small picnic at the park behind my parents' place. Both sets of grandparents were there, even Claire's. I wasn't sure how they'd react when Nina arrived carrying a basket of lemon bars and a small bouquet Ava had picked for her. But Claire's parents stood up, smiled, and hugged her. Her dad clapped me on the shoulder and said, "She's the right kind of quiet." Her mom whispered, "Thank you for giving them something steady." I didn't know I needed to hear that until I did. Claire wasn't there. She texted 2 hours before, "Can't make it. Not feeling well." Whether it was true or not didn't matter anymore. That day, Nina helped Logan fix the wheels on his toy car. She helped Ava find 4-leaf clovers. She laughed with my mom about childhood stories I'd forgotten. And when we all packed up, Ava slipped her hand into Nina's and said, "You're my favorite grown-up." That night, while the kids brushed their teeth, I took Nina out on the porch and pulled the ring from my jacket pocket. I didn't kneel. I didn't plan a speech. I just looked at her and said, "The kids already love you. I already do. I want this to be real all the way." She covered her mouth and nodded before she even spoke. We told the kids at breakfast the next morning. Logan yelled, "I knew it," with crumbs in his mouth. Ava ran to the fridge and started drawing hearts on the calendar with a dry erase marker. Claire found out the next weekend when she picked the kids up and saw Ava wearing a Team Nina button they'd made together at the library. She said nothing, just clenched her jaw and waited while Logan zipped his coat. She had nothing left to say, no position to challenge, no leg to stand on, because I hadn't replaced her. She had removed herself, and what was left was a home that didn't feel like a war zone anymore, a partner who spoke softly, and kids who finally stopped flinching. Claire tried. That's the part most people wouldn't believe, but it's true. She tried to reinsert herself into school pickup lines, into birthday party planning, into conversations that had long since moved on without her. At first, the kids humored it, Ava especially. She'd always had a soft spot for her mom, even when she didn't understand why Claire wasn't around much anymore. Claire got engaged to a PR consultant named Ryan, the kind of guy who smiled too wide and called people buddy within 5 minutes of meeting them. He started showing up at exchanges, waiting in the car with sunglasses on. Claire never introduced him, never made him say hello. When Ava asked if Ryan was nice, Claire said, "He's helping me keep things quiet." That was the word Claire used a lot now, quiet. Her new life was quiet. Her weekends were quiet. She wanted things low profile. Even her Instagram, once full of PDA shots and wine selfies, was wiped clean except for a single post with a latte and the word simplicity. But the kids noticed the shift. They noticed when Claire picked them up and rushed them straight to drop off again. They noticed that Nina, the woman who wasn't technically their mom, showed up to teacher conferences, brought allergy-friendly snacks, helped Ava rehearse her lines for the school play. They noticed Nina remembered Logan's favorite dinosaur and the exact color of Ava's soccer cleats. One afternoon, while I was folding laundry in the living room, Ava came in with a stack of glittery construction paper and a glue stick. "I'm making Mother's Day cards," she said. I smiled. "That's nice. Need help?" She nodded. "I'm making 2. I paused. 2. One for Mom," she said, shrugging. "And one for Nina." She didn't say anything else, didn't explain, didn't ask if it was okay. She didn't have to. A week later, Logan called Nina Mom by accident. He froze, looked at me, then looked at her. Nina smiled. "That's okay," she said gently. "You can call me whatever feels right." He nodded and kept playing. It wasn't a big moment. It was just natural. Claire's efforts started to fizzle after that. She brought cupcakes to Logan's class once, but showed up late and forgot the nut-free label. She offered to plan Ava's birthday party, but then emailed me to say she was swamped and maybe I could handle it this year. Nina handled it. She booked the bouncy house, organized a scavenger hunt, and tied rainbow balloons to the mailbox the morning of. Claire came for an hour. She brought a gift and smiled for a few photos, but she didn't stay to help clean up. Didn't ask what Logan's favorite part was. Didn't notice that Ava's card to Nina was framed and hanging on the fridge. No one pushed her out. She just stopped showing up with both feet. By fall, it was Nina who filled out the emergency contact forms. And Claire? She became a name on the calendar, someone to coordinate with, not someone the kids looked for first when they had good news. And strangely, she didn't fight that. It was like she knew. They were growing roots somewhere else. It was the spring fundraiser at the elementary school. A low-stakes affair, bake sale, raffle baskets, a silent auction where parents bid way too much on gift cards to the local steakhouse. Nina had helped organize it, of course. She was walking around in a sunflower apron, handing out lemonade cups while Logan followed her like a shadow. Ava had just won a book set in the raffle and was hugging it like a treasure when a man I didn't recognize tapped me on the shoulder. "You Michael Tanner?" "Yeah," I said. He flashed a press badge. "Local newspaper. I'm writing a piece about Victor Lang, following up on the ethics investigation." I kept my face still. "Okay. We've confirmed several of his past relationships with subordinates," the man continued. "There's mention of your ex-wife, Claire." I said nothing. "I'm asking everyone named to confirm or comment," he said. "You can decline, of course. Off the record, though. Anything I should know?" I looked over at Nina and the kids. She was crouched next to Logan, helping him unwrap a Rice Krispies treat. Ava was waving at a classmate from the juice table. "No comment," I said. "But I'll say this, the truth always finds daylight." He nodded, scribbled something, and moved on. I didn't tell Claire right away, but she must have gotten a heads up, because 2 days later she showed up on my front porch, unannounced, jaw tight. "This is your fault," she snapped, before I even opened the storm door. I stepped outside and closed it behind me. "What is?" "That article. The fact that they're going to publish my name." I kept quiet. I've stayed out of everything. And now it's all going public. I folded my arms. "I didn't give them your name." "Yeah," she said bitterly. "But you started this. You're the reason any of this got traction." I didn't deny it. I didn't need to. Claire looked around the porch like she was seeing it for the first time. The new flower boxes Nina planted. The chalk drawings the kids had made on the walkway. "You really just moved on," she said. "I didn't move on," I said. "I rebuilt." She took a shaky breath. "They're going to think I'm trash." I didn't answer that, because I wasn't in the business of protecting her image anymore. "You told people," she muttered. "You made me into some public scandal." "No," I said, stepping back. "You did that when you laughed about it under a pergola with a plastic cup in your hand." She didn't argue. She just turned and walked away, her heels clacking down the driveway like punctuation. Inside, Nina was helping Logan with his math homework. Ava was on the couch reading. The house smelled like chicken and rosemary. Later that night, Nina curled up beside me on the porch swing. "They'll write whatever they want," I said. "Let them," she replied. "The people who matter already know the truth." That night, after we tucked the kids in, I walked past the hall mirror. I caught a glimpse of myself, older, a little grayer, maybe even a little softer. But not broken, not bitter, just solid. I'd come through the storm, and what I had left wasn't perfect. But it was real. It was steady. A family that laughed in the kitchen. A partner who looked me in the eyes. Kids who didn't flinch when the front door opened. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I felt like I'd finally built something worth keeping.